that does not apply here. I have no doubt that the fact your other children being taken from you is a significant matter and had an impact on you, but it needs to be seen alongside your actions in 2022 and 2023 and your reasons for acting as you did. Dr. Hillier addresses dangerousness and expresses his observations. The issue is one for determination by me. I've considered the analysis of the issue of dangerousness in the pre-sentence report and in Dr. Hillier's report, and reflected on all the other details I have, including from the family court proceedings. The bar for the test to apply is a high one, and in your case, I do not find it to be met, and there will not be a finding of dangerousness in relation to you. Today, a further short report of Dr. Hillier has been provided to me. Again, I've read and taken on board what he has said. I've made mention of the sentencing note prepared by Mr. Godfrey and Mr. Trafgard. A supplementary sentencing note also being provided to me following on from those reports. Again, I'm grateful for the observations made as to the factual basis of sentence, the approach to guidelines, and how I should approach the reports. The mechanics of death, Mr. Godfrey invites the court to accept the evidence you gave about it. He relies on what you were to say in interview as well as what you said in court. I've dealt in some length with my factual conclusions for the reasons that I've set out above. On the date of death, I've made clear that I have accepted it was by the 12th of January. On sentence overall, Mr. Godfrey submits there has been remorse and sorrow expressed by you. He submits that from early on, you've accepted the baby died as a result of something you did. He submits in your case that your remorse is genuine. Well, I have already made my observations on that topic already. Sentence. On gross negligence manslaughter, in your case, Mark Gordon, there will be an extended sentence of imprisonment amounting to 18 years, with a custodial term of 14 years and an extension period of 4 years. In my judgment, Gordon, in your case, the dangerousness test is met. I've given consideration to the provisions of Section 285 of the Sentencing Act 2020 and whether the seriousness of the offence or one or more of the other offences associated with it is such as to justify the imposition of a sentence of imprisonment for life. However, I do not find it to be. There will be the extended sentence that I've passed upon you. Martin, in your case, as the dangerousness test is not met, there will be a determinate sentence, a sentence of 14 years imprisonment. In your case, I've given consideration as to whether the custodial sentence should be of the same length as that passed in respect of Mark Gordon or not. Having reflected on the issue, I am of the view that the custodial terms should be of the same length. The issues around future risks have led me to the conclusion that Mark Gordon should be the subject of an extended sentence, and there is therefore that distinction between the two of you. On count 1, concealing the birth, the sentence in each of your cases are ones of 18 months imprisonment. Count 2, child neglect, the sentence in each of your cases, again, ones of 18 months imprisonment. On count 5, perverting the course of public justice, the sentence in each of your cases are ones of 5 years imprisonment. The sentences on counts 1, 2, and 5 are to be concurrent to each other and concurrent to the sentences on count 4. Gordon, in your case, what that means is it's likely you will serve 2/3 of that custodial term that I've imposed. If released at the end of that custodial term or at the 2/3 point, you will be on licence until the expiry of the extended period of licence in your case. Martin, in your case, you will serve 2/3 of the sentence I've imposed and then be released on licence. Released on licence, you are subject to the terms of that until the expiry of the custodial term. As the statutory surcharge clearly applies here, the appropriate orders can be drawn up. Before I leave this case, this was clearly a difficult and painstaking investigation for which many police officers were involved. I express my sincere thanks to all of those involved. Inevitably, some officers will have undertaken a significant amount of work to bring a case of this nature to court and to a conclusion. And I would particularly wish to commend Ian Valentine, Martha Bourne and Leanne Cowdery for their commitment and work on this case.
Is the end of that sentencing of Constance Martin and Mark Gordon by Judge Mark Lucraft KC. And we've heard there that Mark Gordon has been sentenced to 18 years in prison. Mark Gordon 18 years and Constance Martin 14 years in prison for the death of their newborn baby daughter Victoria. Both were found guilty of gross negligence manslaughter and another of other charges of neglect. The judge saying it was a difficult and painstaking investigation. He detailed their behaviour. He talked about the arrogance of their behaviour, about the lies they gave to health staff in the past, also chronicled their contact with social workers before the babies were born, and detailed previous children and the fostering of them, the risk of harm, he said, that they presented to children, serious physical violence in the past from Mark Gordon towards Constance Martin as well, which led to great concern for the children. Detailed number of previous convictions of Mark Gordon. He said that he found them both equally culpable of the deaths and that there had been no genuine expressions of remorse from the couple. He said they'd seek to blame everyone else but themselves. I think we can cross now to our correspondent Olivia Guthrie, who is outside the Old Bailey for us. And Olivia, this case unusual. You know, the senior Crown prosecutor Samantha Yellen said she'd never had a case before where she didn't know the date that the victim here, the child, was born, or the date that the child died, combined with an unascertained cause of death.
Well, indeed, and the judge said that this was an extremely difficult case. In fact, today, before passing sentencing, he told Constance Martin and Mark Gordon off for showing a complete lack of respect to the court and passing notes to each other when the judge said they ought to be listening to proceedings instead. He went on to sentence them both to 14 years in prison, with 4 years on licence for Mark Gordon. He said, as you say, that they were equally culpable. They displayed arrogance and they only cared for themselves rather than for their baby. You'll remember there was a nationwide hunt that was sparked at the start of 2023 when they went on the run with their newborn baby, Victoria, taking her away from social services. They had 4 other children who had already been taken into care. They were arrested in February of that year, but they didn't have their baby with them, and they refused to answer officers' questions as to where Victoria was. Very sadly, her body was found in a shopping bag in a disused allotment shed in Brighton the following month. Now, Constance Martin is from a wealthy aristocratic family, and she used her trust fund to pay for taxis and hotels around the UK as they attempted to evade justice and the authorities. Her partner, Mark Gordon, is a convicted sex offender who has also spent time in prison here in the UK for assaulting 2 police officers. Now, police have said that this couple have no human side to them, but there have been protesters outside court here today in support of Constance Martin, and her mother was also in the court today to support her. The jury in the couple's first trial at the Old Bailey failed to reach a verdict about gross negligence manslaughter, but a second jury found them guilty of that here in July. The judge today passing sentence of 14 years in prison for them both, saying this had been an extremely difficult case and that they were both equally culpable for the death of their baby Victoria.
Olivia Guthrie for us there at the Old Bailey. Thank you very much. The UK has summoned the Russian ambassador over their violation of Polish and Romanian.
Okay, so there you go. I just managed to get on. I'm in between classes. I've got another Spanish class soon, but I'm glad I managed to get on just in time to hear the sentencing. So, of course, what was it, 14 years or something? Or was it 18 years? You know, it's always a bit complicated to work out what they're saying. But, you know, the judge did say he wouldn't, you know, distinguish between the two of them, that they were both equally culpable. And hearing there that people were supporting the mother outside court. I couldn't support. I'll tell you why I couldn't support her. I mean, it's likely that she may have had coercive control from this man. That's quite likely, isn't it? But it's because even when she was in prison, away from him, away from his clutches, if you like, she wouldn't tell the police where the baby was. You know, the baby was just there in a pile of rubbish. You know, and when she even got the opportunity, when she was with the police, so she was safe from him if she was scared of him, she still didn't tell the police where the baby was. She didn't cooperate. She's never shown any remorse, really. You know, that's why I couldn't support her. You know, maybe it appears that there was domestic violence. That's why the other children were taken away from them, because of his violence. He's a piece of shit, basically, isn't he? Let's just have a look at, let me read out to you what sort of happened. So after we finished sort of hearing about it, after the lunch break, these are some things that were said on the Sky News site. The court also heard a statement from a housekeeper who worked for Constance Martin's family. Let me just share this with you. And she described Constance as a sweet, polite, thoughtful young woman with a kind heart and caring nature. And she says, in my eyes, Constance is a wonderful person with many outstanding qualities. And also her stepfather, Guy Deseliers, provided a statement talking of their close relationship before she met Mark Gordon. He described her as a rather fascinating woman who was at times rebellious, with a big heart and a big sense of adventure. Need a bloody big sense of adventure to get mixed up with that twonk. Anyway, apparently during the hearing, he tried to pass Constance a note after they were brought back into the dock, but a dock officer ordered him to sit down, and the couple continued to talk to each other while waiting for the judge to come into court. She was talking to her daddy bear. Then the defendant's lawyers continued their mitigation. Tom Godfrey, Constance's lawyer, said the sorrow she feels is incomprehensible. Well, maybe she should show that a little bit. She hasn't shown that sorrow. He says she's always accepted responsibility for the death of baby Victoria, which weighs very heavily on her conscience and will for the rest of her life. And he asks the judge to accept her remorse and sadness as genuine. And he also says a psychiatric report indicates that PTSD was present at the time of her offending and was triggered by the death of her baby. So then there was a short break, and before the actual sentencing, which was televised, the judge started handing down his sentence. He went through the facts of the case. They had 4 children together. In the autumn of 2022, they decided they would live on the move, expecting a 5th child. They moved addresses frequently to ensure no local authority would have jurisdiction over them. They had significant financial resources, thanks to the trust that Constance Martin had. And the judge said that only the couple knows the precise details of baby Victoria's birth. So nobody knows exactly when this baby was born, exactly when it died, or what the exact cause of death was. This baby Victoria is like this no person. So he said that neither of you gave much or any thought to the care or welfare of your baby. Your focus was on yourselves. He says they were given the clearest warnings about the perils of living with a newborn baby in a tent during the winter months. He said you'd also been warned about the risks of unsafe co-sleeping, because there's this dilemma as to did the baby die of hypothermia, or did the baby die as Constance rolled over on her. He says a brief review of the events with their other children displays an arrogance and lack of thought for anyone other than yourselves. You've sought to paint a picture of being caring parents, both in this court and in the course of the family court proceedings, as even the materials set out in the agreed facts at both criminal trials amply demonstrates the actual position was very difficult. Yeah, it's easy to say you're a good parent, but you know. Anyway, so apparently Constance used a fake Irish accent to give birth to their first child. She gave birth to the first child under an assumed identity, using a fake Irish accent. And their true identities were only worked out after a social worker recalled a nationwide alert. They told social workers they'd been evicted from their flat in London and had thereafter lived in a camper van. So apparently they showed little reaction. Neither are reacting much to what's been said. At one point, Martin shook her head and Gordon glanced to the side and behind him. The judge decided he was going to make the sentence based on death by hypothermia. And he said, you claim to want dignity for your daughter's body, but your conduct showed the opposite. Baby Victoria did not have a hat or a coat when her parents were living off the grid. And he adds that they claim to want dignity for her body, but their conduct showed the opposite. And he tells them that he doesn't buy their claims that the newborn child had a camouflage baby grow. He also describes the tent and sleeping bag they bought as inadequate. And he says that little Victoria died by the 12th of January. They then concealed her and perverted the course of justice before her decomposed body was found. And when you were arrested, neither of you was willing to give any assistance to the police about the whereabouts of your daughter's body. Your silence at that stage of events is highly significant. You sought to blame everyone other than yourselves. There has been no genuine expression of remorse from either of you. Whilst there have been expressions of sorrow, you've adopted the stance of seeking to blame everybody else other than yourselves for what happened. And he said, I do not seek to distinguish between the two of you as the conduct when it comes to the sentence. So there you go. We just had the sentence, which was 14 years. I think it's a bit, I have to digest it and work it out. I don't know, how many years, how fluffy, how many years they'll actually serve. I'm not sure. Not 7, probably. Hopefully he'll serve longer. I mean, I don't know. I probably was hoping for, but this is the death of a baby. This is a baby who's died as a result of their actions. Is this baby not valued? It may not have been a murder. It wasn't a murder. But in some ways it was a murder, wasn't it? I mean, it was manslaughter, I suppose. But it's a light sentence in my eyes. And you know what? What they should do, sterilise them as well. So they've already, how many children are they going to keep on having and abusing? So now we find out that the other children were taken off them because of his domestic violence. What does this? This is a woman. It's Constance Martin, an aristocrat who had every chance in life, a woman of means, in her own right, with a trust. And she ended up with this convicted rapist who was committing domestic violence about her. Bloody hell, they say love is blind. It's like Stevie Wonder, God's sake, what did she see in him? He's just like, he's not a nice person. He'd already committed, offences. He's not good looking. He had no money. You you just think, what did he have that she found so attractive about him? I have absolutely no idea, just ridiculous. Hi, Angel. Yeah, I think the sentence, let's see if it's summed up better anywhere else. "14 years. Constance Martin and Mark Gordon both jailed for 14 years, so they won't serve that over the death of their baby in a Brighton tent. 14 years in prison, according to The Guardian and the BBC. 14 years each. Oh, Gordon, he will serve a further 4 years on extended licence. And Constance Martin will not be released until she has served at least 2/3 of her sentence. That's coming up to 10 years, I suppose. And it says here, because they caused so much disruption during the trial, for a couple who caused so much disruption during their trial, there was no reaction from them as they were handed sentences. Let me share this with you what I'm reading. So I'm not going to play the video. Oh, it's only 26 seconds. I might play that video. Let's have a look. So we did capture
To most right-thinking people, their children are the most precious beings, to be nurtured and cared for, to be kept warm, to be fed, even at the expense.
Let's start that. That sounds nice. We didn't get this.
Most right-thinking people, their children are the most precious beings, to be nurtured and cared for, to be kept warm, to be fed, even at the expense of parents' own comfort, and above all, to be loved. What you did towards baby Victoria, despite all you claim to have done, can only be described as neglect of the gravest and most serious type that led ultimately to her death by your gross negligence.
Yeah, so that's what the judge had to say. The judge was quite, I think the judge, said good things, if you like. He was very condemning of them. So we've just had a statement from the Crown Prosecution Service. We were determined to seek justice for baby Victoria and honour her tragically short life. Martin and Gordon used different antics to frustrate and delay court proceedings, doing everything in their power to try and delay facing responsibility for their actions. No child should have its life cut short in this preventable way. I hope today's sentences provide a sense of justice and comfort to all those affected by this tragic case. I still keep thinking about the poor policeman that ended up finding her. I mean, it's good that he did find that baby, to give her that dignity, but just the thought of picking up a carrier bag and then looking inside and there's a baby's dead body underneath a load of dirty nappies, like a bit of rubbish. So they tried to say goodbye to each other, but she was led out of the dock. Oh, Martin handed a note to Gordon before she left. For fuck's sake, how was she allowed to do that? Oh my God, this reminds me of the bloody Moors murderers. That's what they were like, wasn't it, when they were in the dock, because they were all still friends then. I mean, of course, it all went wrong later on. But yeah, when they were actually tried, Myra Hindley and Ian Brady, they were sort of still all, lovey-dovey, weren't they? Well, they won't see each other for 10 years, I suppose, at least. She might be out in 10. He won't be out. He definitely has to do his 14 years, I think. And then he'll serve a further 4 years on licence. I don't know. Yeah. Horrible people. What they're going to have. How old is she? Can she have more children? Is she young enough that when she comes out she'll be able to? I think she is. You know, she'll be able to have more children when she comes out. If she comes out on time. Yeah. What a horrible couple. Horrible. You know, there's people out there, they're desperate to have children. You know, people going through IVF, or that maybe they've had to accept that they're never going to have children. They're desperate to have children. They'd love a baby like Victoria to look after, give her the best chance in life that they can. You know, no parents are perfect. There's people out there that would love that. And unfortunately for Victoria, she ended up with these two. Disgusting. You know, and there were people there supporting her. You know, and mum was, I suppose, you know, at the end of the day, sorry, my necklace fell off. I just put it back on again. You know, you maybe would support your daughter. I think that everybody was more or less agreed that she was, because Constance had no other convictions, previous convictions. It all went pear-shaped for Constance when she met this twonk. How she got involved with him, I just don't know. I don't know what she saw in him. I just don't know. Anyway, won't bring little Victoria back, whatever the reason. I just put a candle up for this baby. Yeah, people out there desperate for babies and would have taken Victoria and given her the best life possible. And this mother and father, who claimed they loved little baby Victoria, took her on a traipse around the country until eventually she died of hypothermia. That's what the judges determined. She's treating it as a death from hypothermia because she was not treated properly. She was living in a tent. A recently born baby. Foul, horrible people. I hope they get their karma. You know, anyway. They're going in the hellhole. I'll have to make a hellhole for them because I hope I never have to speak about them again. They've got their sentences. It's adios, amigo. Hope I never see you again. Hope I never see your faces again. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about Victoria. I've got to go because I've got a class. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Till then, may your God go with you. Thank you. Bye.